I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science. We're going to go straight to some of the reactions from family members, including from Brandon Boudreaux himself, to the guilty verdict of Lori Vallow. Welcome everyone. Good to see you. Kim Possible, Amy, Pauline, Fastar. Good to see you guys.
I did not enjoy sitting and giving someone who tried to kill me the chance to question me, but I owed it to Charles, to Tylee, to JJ, and to Tammy to speak because I could.
For my,
You're right. I prepared just a short statement that I wanted to share. Kay had something she wanted to share, and I want you guys to know that we stand united.
I got it now.
We're still family. We always will be, regardless of the things that happened. But go ahead, Kay. Share your thought.
Okay.
And then I'll share mine.
We got it. Okay. For my brother Jerry, we got the bitch again. That's for you, Jerry.
My statement is as follows. 2,078 days. I'm humbled. I can't even imagine how many hours have been spent by law enforcement and prosecutors tirelessly working to uncover the truth.
Okay, so we are going to come back to that. We are going to come back to those reactions. Kay not mincing words there. Bob, good to see you. Let's go to the verdict. You guys know how long it took for the jury to come to, to reach a verdict? Less than half an hour. To be honest, I don't blame them. I mean, like, what is there to talk about, really? Anyway, let's go to that. Are you guys ready?
Verdict.
In the Superior Court of the State of Arizona, in and for the County of Maricopa, State of Arizona versus Lori Daybell, CR 2022-00-1242-001. Verdicts count 1. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action upon our oaths, do find the defendant, Lori Daybell, as to the crime of count 1, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder occurring on or about October 2nd, 2019, as follows. Guilty. Signed, foreperson. Are these your true verdicts, so say you one and all?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, on the court's own motion, I'll ask the clerk to poll the jury.
Juror number 1, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 2, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 4, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 5, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 6, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 8, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 9, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 11, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 13, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 14, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 15, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
All right, members of the jury, I'm going to excuse you at this time. I have one more legal issue I need to resolve before you can be released from the admonition. So please just hang tight in the jury room for what's hopefully a few minutes, and then we will let you know if we need your further service. So please retire to the jury room, and please, the admonition still applies.
All rise to the jury.
There you have it. Took less than half an hour. Lori didn't testify. There was just 5 days of testimony. A pretty quick trial, all things considered. Pretty simple case as well.
All right. Please be seated. The jury is no longer present in aggravation phase. We're prepared to proceed with. I'll ask the defendant. Yesterday, you indicated you didn't want to proceed with that and you would rather admit those aggravators. Is that still your desire?
I will still stipulate, Your Honor, even though I object to having an aggravator phase at all.
Okay, so
Yeah, so she sounds quite chipper for someone who's just been found guilty. Not much emotion there, but you'll notice in the next couple of minutes just how she, I don't know, she seems incredibly flippant. Throughout all of these trials, you know, I sat in on the one in Idaho, and I don't know if you guys know, while this trial was underway, Laurie actually filed an appeal. So Laurie was, I think, thinking about this original trial. That's the one that I sat in on in Idaho. And maybe that is why she felt sick, was because she needed to pay attention to that and finalize that. I mean, this was going on during this second Arizona trial, right? Erin, good to see you. So, yeah, when I was in court, I witnessed the flippant Laurie firsthand, lighthearted, joking, and you really get the idea that she thinks she knows better than everyone else. She knows the law better. She knows the Bible better. And at what point does it sink in that she doesn't? Does it ever, right? Does it ever sink in? It doesn't seem to have sunk in yet. I mean, she's filing an appeal. That's what she's thinking about. And more than likely, she's thinking about filing an appeal on this as well. Oh, I'll just appeal it. But just listen to how she responds to wanting to waive this and waive that, just very casual about everything. Listen to this.
the state has alleged this is a dangerous offense. Do you understand? And the state has also alleged that this particular crime that you've been found guilty of involved the use of an accomplice. Is that the extent of the aggravators that you want to prove up?
To the jury, yes, that's all we were going to ask to do.
All right. So, Ms. Daybell, do you understand you have the right to have a jury decide whether or not those aggravators are proven beyond a reasonable doubt?
I do understand that.
And do you understand that by admitting those aggravators or stipulating to them that you'd be waiving your right to have a jury do that?
Correct.
Has anyone forced you or threatened you in any way to get you to waive that right to have a jury decide those two issues?
No.
Has anyone promised you anything to get you to waive that right to have a jury decide those two factors?
No.
Are you waiving those factors of your own free will?
Yes.
Do you think this is very intelligent from her? This is really coming down to admitting guilt on something that she has just spent a couple of days saying she isn't guilty of. Do you think that's prudent?
The court finds and do you in fact stipulate that this was a dangerous offense?
I do stipulate to that fact.
And you also stipulate that this particular crime would have involved did involve the use of a presence or use of an accomplice?
I will stipulate to that fact as well.
The court finds.
The impression I get is Laurie is like, I'm done with this trial. I'll just say whatever I need to kind of move on to the next thing. Don't you get that idea? She's sort of, oh, okay, this didn't work out for me. I just need to get out of here. I'm just going to say what I need to say just to go on to the next phase. That's what I mean by flippant. Do you see what I mean?
Those to be knowingly, voluntarily, intelligently entered into stipulation, the court will find that those do exist as a legal determination.
So the judge is asking her, do you want to be tried on aggravating factors? This is going to affect sentencing, right? And she's saying, no, stipulate to that, I'll agree to that, I'll agree that there are aggravating factors. In another sense, I suppose you could say, well, if you've got a life sentence anyway, do you really care about other sentences? You would think even a criminal who's committed a crime is going to want to minimize that sort of thing. I don't want to like sound too empathetic, but just the carelessness suddenly at which that she's showing here is that's what I'm referring to as crazy. But I do want to deal with her closing argument, and just the same thing, her just simply reading from a script, and she's constantly getting objections. She just continues to read from the script. And I think that is, in a nutshell, Laurie Vallow, in terms of this crime. She was following her own script, and no matter what was going on, no matter how reality was interrupting, no matter what the warning signs were, no matter what issues there were, she was going to carry on regardless. And that's not very smart. And I think what we're seeing with this sort of behavior, again, is just a complete lack of critical thinking. It's and maybe when you are misrepresenting yourself, that is how you can't think critically. When you're lying, you can't think critically about. You're thinking critically about how to dissemble and deceive. You're certainly not thinking critically about what is actually going on. It's very hard to do that.
Order a pre-sentence report be prepared on both cases.
Can I waive a pre-sentence report and try to move up sentencing?
No, we're going to have one prepared. Let me ask the state, as far as the state's presentation and how many people might speak at sentencing, do you have an estimated time?
Your Honor, 1 second.
She's done a great job, hey? I must have been really impressed with her.
Your Honor, because we are sentencing both cases together at the same time, to be safe, if we could block off a couple hours, because there are obviously next of kin and victims from both cases. It may be less than that, but I'd think to be safe, we could do that.
All right, this courtroom is going to be taken over by Judge Myers in a week and a half, but he is out the whole week of July 28. So this courtroom would be vacant. We could use this courtroom. So I can do it pretty much any day that week.
Second, I think that.
Right, so I want to go to the Laurie's closing argument, and then the part that I really want to show you and really want to deal with is this lady's fiery rebuttal. I don't know if I've seen her this fired up in either of the two trials. That's the part I really want to share with you. So I just want to quickly get to Laurie's closing. It's not very long. And then the thing I really want to show you is her rebuttal, which is also not very long. Okay, are you guys ready? Now, let's see how long it takes her to get to the first objection, and let's actually count the number of objections as well. And I must say, I find this really triggering. Like, if I was the prosecutor, I would be like pulling out my hair.
When a family breaks apart, it is a tragedy, with the devastation far-reaching, affecting many people. I am not exempt from tragedy, none of us are. But what we learn from it is most important. Because of this experience, I've studied the law and the judicial system, and that knowledge will stay with me forever. When we experience tragedy, we can grow stronger from the experiences, and then those experiences are not all negative. You would think that often people in my position would feel defensive or angry. And from where I'm standing, I understand that very well. But I don't feel any of those things. You have watched me under pressure, under scrutiny, and even under attack. And I have shown you that I'm not on any of those things.
So it's like she's saying, I've shown you that I don't get angry. I've shown you that I'm a good person. That seems to have been how she thought she would represent herself. But isn't this, let me write it down, isn't this Laurie misrepresenting herself? And I mean, just think about what we're talking about here. Laurie acting as her own lawyer in this one trial after another, just bodies lying all over the place. Laurie representing herself, actually Laurie misrepresenting herself. And isn't that also the story of the whole cult thing? I'm going to misrepresent myself as a emissary of God. This and so Laurie's like, this is what I want to do, but objectively, isn't this whole thing being Laurie misrepresenting herself? And I think the question we have got to ask ourselves is, know anyone else like that? Is there anyone else in your life that's right next to you, and what's going on is they're just constantly misrepresenting themselves. They're just constantly doing that. Know anyone like that? Are you doing that? What could go wrong, right?
I'm going to object to character evidence and testimony that's
First objection.
This is
not in
Dave.
evidence.
Ms. Daybell, could I have you pull that microphone a little closer, please?
You can't be upset with people who are forced to look at your life from a distance or judge it through a lens that's being intentionally distorted or being at least very limited. Like the lens the state has shown you on this event. There's so much more going on that is not included to your view. The law prevents some of these things from being shared
I'm
in
going to
trial.
object, Your Honor, to improper.
Sustained.
Second one.
You have seen opinions formed by strangers trying to put together a narrative. I have shown you that basically there is no defense to what a person did not do or did not participate in. Other than what you've seen, which is no evidence that I made an agreement to commit a crime.
So remember in the opening statement, she said, you will learn, you will learn, you will learn. And now she's like, I've shown you, I've shown you, I've shown you. That is like a kind of hypnosis where a stupid person would go, okay, I will learn. Oh, I've been shown that. Person thinking critically would go, really? Did I learn that? Because you don't seem to even know what you're talking about in court. This person presented evidence, oh, you will learn, but then you didn't even present a case. Really? I've shown you that, oh, so by not getting upset when someone accused me of something, that's my case, right?
Because no such evidence exists. So I'm not defensive, I'm not angry. Nobody has all the pieces to this puzzle. It is complex. Like most families, this is a complex issue.
And a lot of criminals, a lot of murderers use nonchalance as how they show that they're innocent. Meaning, whoa, where's this coming from? I'm not sure what you're talking about. I've got nothing to hide, blah, blah, blah. Whereas they think someone who's guilty would get angry, that would be the way a guilty person would show that they're innocent. And it's actually, it's something that the guilty just don't understand. Nonchalance isn't the right demeanor. They think it is, it's not.
And like the state, I was not there. But there is no agreement, no plan, no game. I am no stranger to tragedy. The breaking up of a family is tragedy. On June 25th, 2019, Brandon Boudreaux decided that I was responsible for his family tragedy. And I'm really sorry that he feels that way.
No, Your Honor, I'm going to object again to testimony.
All right,
How many objections are we at now? Is it 4 or 3? But there's some forced emotion. Like what she's trying to do is get sympathy from the jury, right? That's another thing criminals often go for, is that sympathy card. I'm the victim here. Feel sorry for me. Don't think critically, feel pity. It's gaslighting.
jury is reminded that what is said in closing statements or closing arguments is not evidence. It is
Is this the 4th objection? It's like 3rd or 4th, I think. Let's make it 3rd, okay?
not testimony. The intent of the closing argument is for each side to argue what the evidence shows. Go ahead.
I did and have supported my niece Melanie when she suffered tragedy as a young child and during this terribly difficult time in 2019.
Snip.
We read the text from Brandon to me on June 25th, 2019, where he claims that he will never stop until he proves that I am responsible. Well, here we are, almost 6 years later, and I'm charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. In order to have a conspiracy, 2 or more people have to make an agreement to commit a crime. There is no...
So Laurie is absolutely right about certain things. She's absolutely right about certain things that the law says. She's absolutely right about the fact that a defendant doesn't need to testify. So she's absolutely right about that, but she's absolutely wrong. It's being absolutely right within the context of being absolutely wrong. I think about the whole cult thing, quoting Bible verses that are absolutely, that is what the Bible verse says. You're in a courtroom and you're quoting the law and you're absolutely right about the thing you're quoting, but within the context of being absolutely wrong. You've murdered how many people, and you flying the flag of your own so-called innocence. Again, that level of disconnect in oneself is pretty staggering. It's pretty impressive in a way.
No such agreement between me and my brother Alex. Although
She also here seems to be like choking up, some fake acting going on. Like, I can just act my way out of this informational situation. I can just show you something and that's going to eclipse what you actually know for a fact.
I did love my brother Alex.
And I'm going to object again, Your Honor, to testifying.
That's 4, I think.
Sustained.
There is no agreement that was shown to you between myself and Melanie Boudreaux, although I love Melanie.
And I'm going to object again to testifying.
5.
Sustained.
I cannot tell you what happened that day on October 2nd, 2019, because I was not there.
And I'm going to again object to testifying, and please strike everything the defendant has said.
All right. The defendant is admonished, you cannot argue things that were not admitted into evidence.
The prosecutor wasn't there. Law enforcement wasn't there. Only Brandon knows what happened before he called 911. Only Brandon said he will not stop. The fact that I supported Melanie in her time of need does not make me against Brandon. I had nothing to gain by Brandon being hurt. Brandon has worked with law enforcement for almost 6 years to make sure that I pay a consequence.
I'm going to object to misstating the evidence.
Sustained. The jury will determine what the evidence did and did not show.
Your job is to determine if I committed a crime, this crime, a conspiracy, an agreement, not cleaning out a garage, but an agreement to commit murder. You did not see an agreement. You did not hear an agreement. You heard Detective Duncan say that he had spent hundreds of hours going over my iCloud accounts. They have 19 years of my accounts, text messages,
And I'm going to object to
calls.
misstates the evidence and no.
If there was an agreement.
Hold on. The objection sustained. The jury is reminded that they will determine what the evidence did and did not show. Go ahead.
If there was an agreement, they would have showed it to you. There is no agreement. We've all experienced tragedies in our lives, and naturally people want someone to blame, someone to pay a price. My brother is no longer here. We can't ask him about that day. There were things presented in this case that I did not know.
And I would object again to testifying, Your Honor, and ask to strike.
Sustained.
Things that I saw, I thought,
And again, I'm going to already ask to strike.
All right. The defendant cannot testify to things that were not testified to from the witness stand.
because this is the
That is something that's quite interesting in this case. Is many of us, I think, thought that Laurie would throw Alex under the bus, that she would say he was behind it all, you know, that that she knew for a fact that he did this and he did that, and she never did that, which definitely surprised me a little bit, because that, I think, would have been an easy way out, although would have gotten her into all sorts of difficulties as well. Like, how did you know? I just want to go to, she just keeps going in spite of all the objections. That's kind of, it's like the same thing when she was the cult leader. She just keeps going in spite of all the red flags she must have been feeling, where it's like, you are saying you are an emissary of God, and there must have been people around her who were like, yeah, right. She just keeps going in spite of all the objections. In this legal thing, this is the third trial, third conviction, third verdict. She just keeps going in spite of all of it. I'm going to appeal as well. Just the law. It's like, do you think she really respects the law? Do you think she really respects the law of God? All of it's water off a duck's back. All of it is, I think I can fool all of you because I've fooled so many husbands. I've been doing this my whole life. I'm sure I can put it off again. Did she? Has she? Right? But to me, the thing that's going on here is like, how can you be so blind to your own bullshit? How can you be in this sort of echo chamber and everything around you just won't pay any attention to? And I think the answer is the past where you were blind, but you got away with it, and you were rewarded in a way for your obstinacy, which you see with Stockton Rush, I think, as well. There was a period where she was doing what she's doing now, misrepresenting herself, and she got what she wanted. Right? But then there's a point where you misrepresent yourself and you just start going downhill. And you're like, yeah, but it worked in the past. You know what? Just a matter of time. Just keep at it. It'll work for me again. Has it? Will it? But I do think it's an interesting question. What prompts a person to just ignore reality and they just stick with, I'm going to back myself no matter what? I don't think it's stupidity. I think someone is anchored to their own track record where once upon a time it was working for them.
the theory the prosecutor wants you to see. It is limited. How can we say clearly when the law only allows for a skewed view of things? The devastation this family has gone through is the tragedy. After almost 6 years, it's time for healing. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to go. This is what I really want to show you.
State wish to give a rebuttal, close.
Thank you.
All right, the state has the burden to prove the defendant guilty, and since they have that burden, they have the right to open and close the argument. Go ahead.
I don't think it's that. I don't think she has no self-awareness. She used to be a hairdresser. She was a beauty queen. She had 5 husbands. I just think I feel like the lesson she's learned is that it's easier to cheat your way to what you want than for, what do they call it? Hard work and honesty. And I think there are actually a lot of people that feel the same way. I'm definitely not one of those people, but there are definitely a lot of people who are like, it doesn't, when I say cheat your way, it doesn't necessarily mean breaking the law, but it might mean lying, manipulating, tricking people. You know, there are a lot of people on YouTube that actually do that. But basically, you know, there's the straight and narrow, but which ends up being a harder path. Might be the right path, but it's a harder path. And then there's the other way where things can be a lot easier, but it can also be easy come, easy go. And isn't that what we have in this case? I don't think she doesn't have self-awareness, but I know what you're talking about. It's like, does she have a conscience? Does she have contextual awareness? Right? Okay, let's listen to Treena K.
The defendant wants you to think that Brandon has it out for her. She has tried to insinuate that Brandon was involved with working with Detective Pillar for years just to get her. But what you heard was that Brandon has actually been working with law enforcement on multiple investigations, and that in fact Melanie Boudreaux is a subject of multiple investigations. So again, as the defendant sits up here and tries to portray and paint a picture for you of her innocence and sadness and family tragedy, she again misrepresents what was told to you at trial.
And I think, again, that's a opposite summary of Laurie. That's Laurie in a nutshell. Just those 2 words. Who is Laurie? What is Laurie doing? Well, in a nutshell, that. And how does she misrepresent? She portrays, she shows. What she's portraying isn't true. What she's showing is a facade that's not true. It's all misrepresentation. And you might say, doesn't she know that people don't believe her? Well, apparently she doesn't. But once upon a time, she misrepresented herself and she succeeded. The people around her believed her. And before you too dismissive of this, Larry and Kay thought that maybe Tylee and JJ were okay. There was a period where they were like, you know, let's wait and see. Laurie said this, let's wait and see what happens. And fooled them for quite a long period of time as well. She fooled law enforcement immediately after Charles Vallow's death, long enough to be able to commit all of these other crimes. And it ends up being Charles Vallow's death's only been sorted out now. So don't be too quick to say, oh, it's so pathetically easy to see through Laurie Vallow. Look how long it took the Chandler police to kind of wake up, to smell the coffee. She has been able to fool a lot of people because she's kind of a warm and fuzzy person. She has succeeded in doing that. You know, let's go back to Treena. I'm going to try not to interrupt.
She tells you there was no plan, but she ignores the facts and the evidence of a very obvious long plan.
Yeah, very obvious.
A plan that started when she began, this defendant, Laurie Vallow, meddling in Melanie and Brandon's marriage. And when that marriage was finally ending, this defendant continued to help her niece, Melanie. She continued to aid her. And what we see in every one of these bits of evidence is a core group of people. This defendant, her brother Alex, Melanie Boudreaux, and Chad Daybell. The four of them working together. Do we need to have words of video? No, we do not. That is why there is that jury instruction on direct and circumstantial evidence, because you look at what is going on here. And
so one thing that I don't know is, are there going to be charges against Melanie Boudreaux at a certain point? Because the fact that the prosecutor can say this in closing seems to be almost a fait accompli. It's like even Laurie doesn't object to that. So was Melanie part of this conspiracy? She may have a case to answer for as well.
it screams to you a conspiracy by this defendant, by Melanie Boudreaux, by Alex Cox, and by Chad Daybell to kill Brandon Boudreaux. Every action you see there, the defendant would like you to look at them individually and pretend that they don't all point to what happened on October 2nd. But everything they did leading up to then shows you a way to cover up and prepare for the murder of Brandon Boudreaux. When we talk about a plan and this defendant's actions,
when you have someone covering up a crime, they commit a crime, but they've got a plan right there to cover it up as well. Like, it's like, Alex, I need you to go and murder this guy. And it's like, well, how are we going to pretend that that's not happening? How can we misrepresent what's actually going on? Don't worry, give me your phone. I'll phone myself with your phone. And that's how we'll show everyone what really happened. Again, misrepresentation. And so when you so well-versed at misrepresentation, that's your default setting. Does that make sense? I actually met someone once who, when I got to know a little bit better, I was like, that's not true, and that's not true either. And then I sort of said to her, you seem to lie about a lot, like even things you don't even need to lie about. Like, what's with that? And she was like, yeah, I kind of can't help it. And it blew my mind. It's like some people, like I live my life a certain way, but some people literally can't help lying about everything, even if it's a small thing, like, I don't know, just something that it doesn't really matter what the truth is even. And then they lie about that as well. And it's like, but that's their default setting. It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
the most obvious and screaming piece of information is this defendant holding on to her brother's phone for days.
Yeah.
Holding on to the 480-351-9120 number.
I must say, when I heard her say that, I was like, well done. Like she knows this case so well. She didn't even have to read that number. She knew it off by heart. I mean, I'd like to take this prosecutor out for coffee.
For days, while her brother is gone, with her Jeep, without the rear tire, without the back seat, with a gun with him.
Absolutely.
That is part of the plan. That is the assisting, that is the promoting, that is the conspiracy that this defendant wants you to pretend doesn't exist. We don't need words. We have actions that are obvious. Mm-hmm. And they're done by this defendant and her co-conspirators. The state asks you to look at everything together, regardless of how many people want to cry up here, regardless of how many people want to.
And that's also a little bob towards her, wanting to cry, wanting to pretend to cry. Yeah, it's all a show.
Try to testify. This is not evidence. What is evidence is what was presented to you in trial, and each piece of that tells you this defendant is.
Laurie seems to have thought that she can just come in at the end and wow them with a bullshit story, that people are that dumb, right? And she was wrong. And I must say, I would have been not insulted, but I would have been disappointed if the jury had taken hours and hours to deliberate on this, because it's so freaking obvious.
Guilty.
They
And so I
deliberated
ask you to
less
find
than
her
half an
guilty
hour.
of the conspiracy to commit murder against Brandon Boudreaux. Thank you.
Yeah, and they did. Okay. So now we're going to go to the reaction. We're just going to go back to that. Remember, we started with that. Let's just.
The truth is that hatred, selfishness, and greed almost led to the end of my life. 12 strangers verified that Lori must be held accountable. I have heard the question asked, why hold this trial? She already has multiple life sentences. My response is simple. We owe it to those who are victimized and choose to follow the law to uphold justice on their behalf. So many victims never get this day. So I thank the judge and the jury who willingly put their lives on hold to complete this process. I did not enjoy.
I must say, the value I got out of this trial, I really didn't really watch a lot of it. I watched his testimony, was exactly what he said there is, it's so seldom that you have a victim testifying on their own behalf in court, because so often the victim is dead, the victim is gone, the victim is missing, and they can't speak for themselves, and then someone else misrepresents who they are, what they were going through, their relationships and so on, and often successfully, right? Often successfully. And so yeah, you have someone able to say, this is what is going on. She accused me of being gay, and I'm not sure what the other things were that made Melanie want to break up with her. Hacking her computer. Wow, what a crime. I wonder whether Melanie regrets Lori's influence. I mean, that would be another interesting question. What do you think? I mean, Melanie and Lori are family, so is it a question that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, or does it fall far enough?
Sitting and giving someone who tried to kill me the chance to question me, but I owed it to Charles, to Tylee, to JJ, and to Tammy to speak because I could.
So, like if you think about it, if that bullet was about that much lower, he wouldn't be standing here. Like someone went to a lot of effort, drove all the way to Arizona, to his home, a rental home. I think he'd only been living in a week, and went to a lot of effort, tinted windows. There was a rifle, I think, with a kind of a muzzle on it. And if Alex had shot that much lower, he wouldn't be standing here. And think of, it's not like somebody tried to kill him and didn't succeed. The someone who tried to kill him killed 2 of her own children, killed her husband, and conspired to kill someone else's wife. Well, all of these were that sort of thing. So 4 people were dead. This is the only one who survived those murderous stratagems, right? I don't know about you, but if I was him, I'd be like shivering a little bit, like with PTSD. Like that was damn close. It's not like one person tried to kill me. People who have killed 4 other people try to kill me. Maybe I was just lucky.
I don't know the statistics of how many people never get the chance because they were killed or because we can't find the people who committed the crime. But we as a society owe it to them to move forward with prosecuting those who commit violent crimes.
So do you get a sense from this that he's vengeful, that he wants payback, that he hates Lori? That's how Lori was trying to present it. Lori's trying to present it as, I'm a good person, I don't get angry, but he's got a chip on his shoulder. Is that the true representation here, right? I'm going to commend him on being he seems like a very good man. And is not full of self-justification. The fact that he can stand here and say, you know what, I'm here to represent other victims is really, I think, what this case is all about, especially in this case involving Tylee, JJ, Charles, and Tammy.
I've chosen in my life to be and live as a man who believes in Jesus Christ and in God. So I view my life from this lens. I heard this in this trial about loving everyone. I support this cause. However, I do not believe that all the things that were said follow that. The Savior did say, "Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils? And in thy name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity." The beautiful part of this human experience is, as Isaiah said, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes. When we trust the Lord to do this with our lives, he can do wonders with us. I'd like to share two things that I have used in my life to help me move forward and create beauty from the ashes. The first is from Viktor Frankl. He taught there's a space in life between stimulus and response where we can choose and have freedom. It is okay to feel hatred, anger, passion, and a myriad of other feelings when life's stimulus are unexpected or unfair or both.
We can choose our response.
But true freedom comes from mastering our ability to respond in our actions, independent of the stimulus, to choose who we will be and to act and not to be acted upon. Secondly, I believe every human being is a child of God and has immeasurable worth. Hating a person can be like a poison to our souls. It can take away our joy and our happiness. I believe we can have enmity towards someone's actions or choices while still forgiving them for our own selves, to have more room for love and happiness and joy. Truly living this principle is a process. It takes time. But as we apply these two principles, that of choice before response, and forgiveness and love, and valuing others as oneself, I believe that it makes our society better. So thank you for coming and supporting me in this, for all of you who have. And we're grateful today for those who let us have our due process. So,
Brandon, would you
thank
say
you.
you've forgiven Lori?
It's a process. I will do my best. It's something that I believe, if you give away your hatred to the Savior, I would tell you that there is more room for joy and love for your family, for your friends, for those who do love you. So that's the best I can share.
Brandon, do you believe Melanie should be charged in this case?
I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I appreciate the question.
What did you think that the jury came back less than 30 minutes?
I'm grateful that they did their responsibility, and I'm grateful for a verdict.
Brandon, where do you go from here?
I'll continue moving forward with my life. I have a beautiful wife. I have wonderful family. I have so much wonderful family that's waiting back there. I'll go back to anonymity, hopefully, and just live my life and be another person who tries to do the right thing in the right situation. And I want to say thank you to all the people who did the right thing, who came in, who gave up their time and participated in the process. There's a lot of people who don't get any thank yous that give up their time, and so I just want them to know I'm grateful.
Jenny, anything you want to say?
I am grateful that I am standing next to this man right now.
Thank you,
Grateful
guys.
that he's here.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, well, there you have it, guys. This case, I don't know, is something that kind of means quite, not like this specific one, but the Lori Vallow story kind of means quite a bit to me, because someone close to me also got really caught up in sort of religious dogma, and it can ruin other people's lives. It's almost like someone losing their mind, and so the people around them then have to pick up the pieces. It's like, it's like someone who goes on that path they're like this destructive hurricane, and they literally leave destruction in their wake. In my case, people didn't die, but there was definitely very lasting damage. And so that, in a way, was a personal journey I wanted to go on. And I must say there was a lot I wanted to talk about and share, but I felt like, I mean, I appreciate you guys being here, all 172 of you, but I felt like the vast majority of people watching this case and trial weren't really interested in an outsider. Oh, this guy's from South Africa. And, you know, I understand that it's to do with the LDS. I'm going to get into trouble for that. LDS community, probably quite close knit. So if you're not LDS, you don't understand LDS, all of that kind of thing. So I ended up not really going down that path. I wanted to write a book about this case. Maybe I will one day, but would have been quite painful to do because it would be going into very painful areas. And I think at a certain point, I realized there wasn't that much interest. Certainly, there were other channels that, I mean, I saw another channel that had, I think, 14,000 people watching their live coverage. I've got 140 people. And although it's not just about numbers, you sort of feel like, am I going to really work this hard, go into these dark places? Am I prepared to do that? And then I just felt like I wasn't, and I'm not. And so, like I said, I might write Laurie Vallow cult figure one day. It's definitely a story that's very close to my heart because I lived it in a way. But we'll see. I mean, like he says, you can choose your response. Maybe my response is, you know, I lived it. Do I really have to languish in it? Do I really have to, what do they call it when you marinate in it? And I'm not sure if I do. You know, it wasn't a nice time. Do you really have to analyze it to death? Maybe not. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. We're coming to the end of the hour. I just want to thank those of you who were here. I want to thank those of you who joined in for the coverage when I did do coverage. Let's have a look at some of your comments. Veronica, Melanie's future will probably be in the next cell to Laurie. Okay. Sonny says he must have so much sadness, losing his marriage, trying to keep his kids safe, losing his friend Charles. Yeah, I think he does. I think he does have survivor's guilt. Thanks for your comment, Sonny. You know, Pauline said he's a very authentic individual, and the fact that someone asked him, have you forgiven Laurie? The fact that he didn't say yes or no, he says it's a process. That's a very authentic response because that's exactly what forgiveness is, especially in a situation like that. I think if you could say, yeah, I forgive that person, it's kind of facile. I remember when I covered the Oscar Pistorius case, Reva, the victim's mother, Reva Steenkamp's mother, instantly said, we forgive Oscar. And I thought, with respect, you can't, you don't, I don't want to sound mean, but you kind of don't know what you're talking about. Like, no one can just, you can say those words, but you can't just forgive someone like that. You don't know what you're in for. Someone has been taken from you forever. You're never going to see them again. And you're going to have lots of unresolved questions. And maybe you forgive that person today, and maybe you said you have, but it's not so simple or so easy. And I ultimately met Reba's mother, and a lot of those unresolved feelings and questions, which she'd tried to resolve just by like, I'm just going to forgive him. It didn't work. Didn't work doing that. She had to go through this process. And so when I was actually with my co-author, we met June, and they actually had a lot of questions for us. and you could tell that forgiveness was kind of hypothetical. And that's one thing to say it, it's another thing to really deal with it. And a lot of people in a situation, you can understand it's hard to deal with, and you want to avoid it, you want to escape it, because it's a horror, it's a nightmare. And so him saying it's a process is a very honest response, a very authentic response. And I must say, I appreciate that. Time to heal. Sam says, thanks, actually caught you live for the first time. Great. I don't do a lot of live, so you're lucky. You're lucky. Lisa, he's supposed to believe in forgiveness, but it's easier said than done. Yeah, definitely is easier said than done. But it's also true, not forgiving someone, choosing to hold a grudge is toxic, it is poisonous. It actually gives an aftermath that takes agency away from you. And so I do think you sometimes need to allow yourself to let go of certain people that are just proved over and over and over again to be unhelpful or deconstructive, or I don't know what the word is, but just a negative influence in your life. You've got to at some point recognize that, and you don't have to tell them. You can just silently withdraw and do that for yourself. But holding a grudge and feeding that's not particularly helpful. Any other comments? Veronica says, totally understand. Self-care comes first. Thanks, Erin. Sam Sci-Fi says, forgiving is much easier if the other person is actually remorseful and honest. Absolutely. If someone, to use a biblical phrase, confesses their sins, if it's not sincere, it means nothing. If it is sincere, that's when there's truly healing taking place. There's true catharsis, right? And that's why it is also important to be able to be honest with ourselves and with others when we've done something wrong, but also be able to recognize when someone is bullshitting us, that they're so sorry they did something, then they do it again, and then they do it again. And that's why pattern recognition in relationships and behavior is quite important, because that's how people tend to behave in like a pattern. They do things over and over again. Thanks, Veronica. Okay, last couple of comments. Veronica says, I have had to distance myself from someone very close for my sanity. Yeah. All right. That's it from me. Hope you guys are doing well. Cheerio from a very, very cold South Africa. It's about the coldest time of the year. But wherever you are, I hope you're enjoying the warm summer. Of course, the tide turns. And I think a week from now is the height of summer wherever you are, the solstice. And the sun begins to move south towards us here in the southern hemisphere, and it's going to start warming. So that's also something that's constantly happening. Seasons change. If there's anything that is guaranteed, it's change. So if you're unhappy or miserable or failure, well, the chances are things are going to improve. By the same token, if you're very happy and things are going great, just be aware that things change, and don't try and hold on to anything too tightly. Just try and have a little bit of a cerebral view of things, because ultimately none of us are in control. There's a certain amount that you can influence your life, but none of us are really in control, as much as we want to be or like to be. Erin says it's finally warm here in Indiana. I've traveled to Indiana. I went to Indiana to be boots on the ground in the Delphi case, and found it like quite an interesting state. yeah, see you guys soon sometime. Lisa says it's 88 degrees here in Four Corners. Was that Colorado? Okay. Michigan here, enjoying your channel. Thanks, Princess Iron. All right. Thanks, guys, for being here. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.